Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
And today we're going to be talking about Captain America: Civil War. Directed by the Russo brothers, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and starring Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Don Cheadle, a whole bunch of people. Paul Rudd, Chadwick Boseman, Jeremy Renner, Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, Tom Holland, Daniel Bruhl, whole bunch of people. Very big cast. This movie was just released, May 6th. And so, even though we haven't talked about Winter Soldier yet, both of us got to see it, and so we figured we'd go ahead and just talk about Civil War. This also marks our 50th episode, which took us, I guess, almost 3 years to get to, which is kind of slow in terms of other podcasts, but hey, we're proud of it. 50 episodes under our belt, which is cool. So if you've been around since episode 1, we appreciate it. If you've been around for just this episode, we also appreciate it. If you haven't seen Civil War, you might want to not listen to this, because we're going to talk about the whole movie. And so there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen Civil War, go out, check that movie out, and then come back.
Hit stop.
Hit play. Yeah, or hit stop now, then come back and hit play. So, John, what was your initial reaction?
I thought it was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep it at that. I enjoyed it. How about you?
Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. Thought it was really good. Wasn't blown away by it or anything, but I had I thought it was entertaining. My two favorite characters are two characters that are not in the movie very long, which would be Spider-Man and Ant-Man. Those are my two favorites. But no, overall, I thought it was really good. Thought it was one of Marvel's stronger movies.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I agree. Spider-Man was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was just fantastic, and the pun, amazing. He was very different than any Spider-Man we've had before, but very comic book-like.
Uh-huh.
And I think they nailed it on the head with him.
Yeah. I agree. What made him different than previous Spider-Mans to you?
Well, one, he was super younger.
Yeah.
Not that he was necessarily... well, yeah, he was. I mean, he's probably about 15 in this.
Yeah, I think so.
In the Raimi movies and in the, Andrew Garfield renditions, he was probably, senior year, you think? Of high school?
In both movies, actually, I think is it in Spider-Man 1 he graduates from high school, or is it Spider-Man 2? I can't remember. But he graduates from high school in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So it's possible he's either a junior or a senior in the first movie.
True. But this one, yeah, he seems like he's maybe freshman, sophomore age.
Right.
He looks so much younger, too.
Right. That I think is Tom Holland, I'm looking him up right now. He's about to be 20 years old, so he was probably
Is he really?
18 or 19 when they shot the movie, but he does look like he's like a 14 or 15-year-old.
He does. And the way they wrote him, he plays that off perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way that they he seems like he's a nerd.
Right.
More to the degree that Tobey Maguire did.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like Andrew Garfield was more of like a little bit cooler of a nerd than Peter Parker was.
Right.
I loved Andrew Garfield's version of Peter Parker, but this Tom Holland seems a little bit more nerdy. He's carrying home what appears to be a DVD player, and then you go into his room and he has like an old Apple and all this old stuff. So he's just collecting all this old technology. And I like that they kept that he created the web formula.
Yeah, and that's something he had the web shooters in Amazing Spider-Man, which everybody was happy with. But then that was one of the things I was disappointed with Amazing Spider-Man, is that the actual webbing was an Oscorp product. Whereas, in this movie they get it right. He developed the webbing himself.
Exactly. Exactly.
That was good.
Interestingly enough, Tony Stark creates or develops his suit.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of picked up on that from the trailer. You know, when you saw the eyes do the motion and the move where they closed, I was like, that seems like Tony Stark technology.
Right.
And turned out to be.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. It worked out.
I mean, honestly, I thought it was like really smart on the writer's parts, because, you know, he's just a kid, and as smart as he is, I thought it was great that he was just running around in like sweatpants and, you know, goggles, basically.
Right.
And so, because that's probably what a kid would throw together.
Right.
And so I thought it was, you know, it was one of the things that people have. I never had a problem with it, but it's one of those things that, you know, some people have like a little problem with, like some, you know, regular guy being able to make a costume that's like so nice, like the Tobey Maguire costumes and things like that, you know. So I thought it was really cool that they had Tony Stark do it. And I also think that's also kind of a nod to the Civil War comics, because I guess it might have even be before the Civil War comics, but in the Civil War comics, Spider-Man has like an Iron Spider suit, which was like Tony Stark made, and it had, I'm glad it wasn't in the movie, because I don't think it would have translated well, but it has like these like kind of mechanical tentacle type things. Not tentacle's the wrong word, because that's more like Doc Ock, but it looked like spider legs, basically.
Right.
And it was like red and gold, like Iron Man colors.
Yeah, so. I mean, this Marvel just acquired the rights to Spider-Man. You've got to introduce Spider-Man.
Right, you can't have him in the...
And I felt like they nailed it. It was great. So I'm super excited to see future Spider-Man versions on this big screen. His standalone movie. I was ecstatic about seeing what's to come with that.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good. Tom Holland, obviously, was very good. I read an article that the writers said something like, if they hadn't gotten the rights to Spider-Man, they were like, I don't know what we would have done. And to me, I didn't feel like... So I like when I went into the movie, I thought that he was going to be such an important part to the story, and he was a cool addition to the story, but I didn't think he was like necessarily a necessary addition to the story, to the point where like if they hadn't gotten the rights, that the story would have fallen apart or something. He just wouldn't have been in the fight scene. Oh
yeah, I totally agree. He was... I mean, if you look at it at the standpoint that they got the rights during the production of Civil War, which, if I'm not mistaken, is what happened.
I'm not sure when they got the rights to it. It might have been during production. I know I feel like the public wasn't let in on it until late into the production.
It could have been, yeah. It could have just been when they released the information, but yeah, I mean, if you look at it at the standpoint that they got the rights during production, you could see how he was added in.
Right.
It didn't change the story at all. You could have had the same stuff happen without Spider-Man in it, and it wouldn't have felt any different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. It didn't... I don't understand that statement from him.
I don't either. Maybe they were just saying it to hype up their movie. I don't know.
Right.
Because I did read it before the movie came out.
But it was so great to see Spider-Man on the screen and in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that Sony was necessarily doing him wrong. Granted, we still have to talk about The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
But...
And Spider-Man 3.
And Spider-Man 3. But like this such a great direction they appear to be going.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I like you said, I didn't have any problem with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. and I like Tobey Maguire a lot as Spider-Man. And so I haven't, to me, there hasn't really been a big screen version of Spider-Man that I haven't liked, but this version of Spider-Man seems to be going in the right direction to the point. That was another thing that I read before seeing the movie, is that this was the best Spider-Man we've ever had, and blah, blah, blah. And I just feel like it's a little, I think you could say it's going in the right direction, but I feel like it's too early to say he's the best Spider-Man we've ever had.
It is too early, but I wouldn't say that that's the wrong statement either. One thing that I will say about it is you could kind of tell that pretty much every scene with Spider-Man was CGI'd.
Right.
Which is a little unfortunate. I don't know if maybe me thinking that this was added during production, maybe that's why they did it. But in the future, I would like to see
more practical.
Tom Holland actually in the Spider-Man suit.
Mm-hmm.
And more of that, yeah.
Yeah. And speaking on the suit, I think, obviously we got to see it in the trailer, but I really think the suit looks really good.
It's great.
So.
It's great.
Very well done. Speaking of CGI, they're in that airport fight scene before it starts. It might even be before Spider-Man shows up, and Iron Man is talking to Captain America. There's some weird, bad CGI going on with Iron Man. He takes like his helmet kind of automatically goes away. And then there's this, at least I noticed it. I don't know if anybody else did, but it's like they had a weird, I'm assuming the suit that he's wearing was probably one of those motion capture suit type things that you see people on set with. And they added in the actual like Iron Man armor, but there was some weird kind of not great CGI happening. It's just like his around his head area just looked really weird to me when I saw the movie. That's the best way I can describe it, I guess. But I guess if you see it again, keep a lookout for that during the beginning of the battle scene.
I don't think I picked up on that, but there was a lot going on in the movie. So
well, that's very true. a lot of stuff going on in this film.
And if you want to continue on CGI, oh my goodness, the scene where Robert Downey Jr. is like college age,
mm-hmm.
and they make him young. That was insane. It looked so good.
Yeah,
and
it did look pretty good.
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, knowing that it's CGI clearly because he's not that age, it was believable to see. I mean, they even did close-ups of him. He comes forward to the camera and you get a really good close-up of him, and it looks good. I'm wondering if in the future you're going to start seeing more of that on actors that don't necessarily require that for the performance, but just want to look young. Because before this movie started, there was a trailer for the next Bourne movie.
Uh-huh.
And I remember thinking how much Matt Damon has aged.
Yeah.
And you see it in his face, and they even show one of the pictures from the first Bourne movie, and you got to see how young he was then. And I'm like, are they going to, in 5 years start making these actors look younger than they actually are just to appease their ego? Yeah.
I feel like, it's possible. I feel like that would be really expensive to have to, because especially if, let's say, if it's Matt Damon and he's like the lead of a movie, that's a lot of work to make them look younger throughout the entire film.
True.
Whereas, they're doing it for one scene for Iron Man in this film. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wonder if, it gets to the point where in the past we've had a lot of these movies where they cast a young actor to play the young version of a character, and then that version grows up. And I wonder if they could do some sort of motion capture / de-aging process to have, like, for example, let's say Man of Steel, the kid that they got to play like the teenage Clark Kent. You get Henry Cavill to just kind of do those scenes wearing like a motion capture suit, and then they just kind of make him look like a teenager, and then they use his own face and like kind of de-age him.
Right.
To make him, so that way you just have the same actor playing that character. I wouldn't be surprised if they just start doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And, but you have to also think about as time goes on, that process is going to get cheaper.
Right, and easier and better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remembered the scenes from the first Captain America movie with Chris Evans when he was like the scrawny Steve Rogers, and I mean that looked great.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Who knows? You're right. Who knows what the future of CGI has in store for us?
So this was a Captain America movie.
Not an Avengers film.
Not an Avengers film. It felt more Avengers than Captain America to me.
Yes.
But it did feel more of a Captain America movie than any of the others, except maybe Iron Man. I felt like the split between Iron Man and Captain America was pretty evenly divided.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I felt like the hype for this movie was a little higher than it deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard people say that this is in the top like 3 superhero movies they've seen, and I can't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually liked Winter Soldier better than this out of the Captain America movies.
I don't know. For me, I'd have to. I want to see this one again, and it's been a little while since I've seen Winter Soldier, so I'd probably have to rewatch them both, kind of compare. But they're both really good. There were things I liked about this movie a lot that might put it above Winter Soldier, and I think it's just some of those, like that airport battle scene was really, really good.
Right,
and
that was the best part of the movie.
Sure, of course. This is a little side rant. I was really disappointed because they shot that scene with IMAX cameras. So I went to a different IMAX theater than the one I normally go to because a friend of mine was talking about how good it was. And so I paid like $22 for my ticket and went down to this IMAX and found out it's not a real IMAX. It's a large screen, but it's a Limax, essentially. And so you really couldn't, I mean, I didn't even like really notice when the IMAX scenes were on, it was not nearly as tall as an IMAX screen is normally. So I was really kind of bummed with myself for going to that theater because I should have just gone to the IMAX theater I normally go to. Mm-hmm. And I would have probably enjoyed it.
I guess
scenes at least a bit more.
You don't typically go to a Limax, you go to an actual IMAX theater?
I do. I have one. Fortunately, I have one really close to me. I have one that's about 10, 15 minutes away.
Wow.
And so it's expensive, and you have to pay to park, but it's worth it.
Oh my goodness, you have to pay to park?
Yeah, well, it's at Universal Studios, so it's at City Walk, so you have to pay like $15 to park, and then the theater will give you back 8 or 10. So it still costs you like $5, $5 or $7. But yeah, you have to pay to park.
That's kind of nice of them to give you money back, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if it cost $15 to park and you didn't get anything back, it would be hard to justify going because you're paying $20-something for your IMAX ticket and then $15 to park. I have taken we have like a subway that is $3.50 round trip, and you can get off at Universal Studios and you ride the tram up, and we've done that before, but sometimes that's a bit of a hassle, and you have to time it right, because you got to make sure you aren't late to the movie, so sometimes it's just easier to drive and park there. But anyway, that's off topic here, but yes, I should have gone to that theater instead of the one I went to.
So you've only seen Civil War once?
Correct.
Okay.
Going off of what you were talking about, obviously there's a lot of characters in this movie, more than the previous. Well, the first Captain America, he's the first Avenger, so there's no other superheroes really in that film. Right. And in Winter Soldier, you had Nick Fury and Black Widow, and Falcon, I guess. Falcon was introduced in Winter Soldier. But in this film, you obviously have a lot of Avenger characters, pretty much all of them except for Thor and Incredible Hulk, because Thor goes back. This is
almost an Avengers movie.
Yeah, I would really say. I mean, the only reason I think it's not an Avengers film is because there is such a focus on Captain America, even if there is a big focus on Iron Man. And it has to do with the Winter Soldier and
Right.
Captain America.
I
and their
think even
relationship.
more so it's because they don't want this to be Avengers 3
Right.
because they have plans for Avengers 3.
Sure.
But this was close.
Very close.
Like you said, there's no Thor and the Hulk, but Hawkeye makes a surprise appearance. I didn't know he was in the movie.
Vision is in the film.
Vision's in it. You got Scarlet Witch.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's all of the new Avengers are in it.
Yeah.
And but I liked that. It felt good to have all of them in it. It felt but it felt like I said more like an Avengers movie. Aside from the fact that, they focus more on Captain America, but not to the degree that the first Avenger and Winter Soldier did.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's almost like an Avengers 2.5.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Avengers 2.5 sounds pretty good because it even plays off of what happens in Ultron, but that's not really true. It more plays off of what happens in. It does. It talks about Sokovia and whatnot, but I guess it plays a little more off of Winter Soldier, just because there's so much focus on the Winter Soldier.
Right.
Black Panther was introduced in this film, played by Chadwick Boseman, and Black Panther I always looked cool to me, and his costume in this film I thought was awesome looking, and I thought he did a great job, and I liked their how his kind of whole thing about thinking the Winter Soldier blew up the the bus outside the building or the van outside the building. Killing his father, and so he has this vendetta against the Winter Soldier. I like that whole storyline and everything. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I liked Black Panther too. I thought he was really cool. That story point, I was okay with. I felt like though the majority of the story was a little bit lacking. I get that they don't want to have a major villain because it's supposed to be Civil War.
Right.
And that they kind of need this guy that is the cause for them to kind of be button heads. But I felt like it didn't really have much spice to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember thinking when I walked out of the theater that Zemo was kind of a weak villain.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly why, is because they want it to be more Iron Man versus Captain America.
Right.
And so they have a villain who's kind of sort of pulling strings. I guess he is pulling strings kind of behind the whole thing. But yeah, at the end of it was just kind of like, okay. For him.
Right, exactly. Also, it didn't really feel like it was it didn't feel as much like a Civil War to me as it should have.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really fighting each other. They're just Iron Man's team is just trying to prevent the Captain America team from doing what they're trying to do.
Right.
But it wasn't a true conflict of we're completely against you. They were just trying to slow them down and hold them back from their goal.
Right, and they even kind of joke, when, even though it was a funny line when Hawkeye and Black Widow are fighting, and she's like, "We're still good, right?" And he's like, "It depends on how hard you hit me." It's like they're adding that into it, and like what you said, it just doesn't feel like anybody's in any real danger or anything. And so...
Right, they're holding back their punches.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, Batman v Superman was way more Batman, the two good guys going up against each other than this one was.
Right. Even though the fight scene was shorter. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, I would say the part that really feels like, Civil War, even though war is probably a little too strong, civil fight, is towards the end when Iron Man starts fighting Captain America and Winter Soldier.
Exactly.
Because then he's really not pulling his punches, because he's Iron Man anyway, because he's super pissed.
Right. Well, he's not doing them so much against Captain America. It's
Right,
Captain
but
America's
Captain
getting
America
in his way of
is
Bucky.
in his way, so he's fighting Captain America. Yeah, I agree. What did you think of that? We'll just kind of go ahead and talk about it. The reveal that Winter Soldier was the one that killed Howard Stark and Mrs. Stark. I don't even know what his mom's name is.
It felt a little forced to me. But at the same time, I accepted it because I was able to give Tony Stark that reason to go after Bucky.
Right.
More than he had ever in this movie. So that was kind of the moment that gave that true danger that we hadn't had.
Right.
I really like that fight scene too. There were, the moment where Captain America takes his shield and starts beating Iron Man in the face with it.
Yeah.
And then Captain America or Iron Man's mask comes off. And you see the fear in Robert Downey Jr.'s face. That was great acting right there. Very powerful.
Yeah.
And then he just buries the shield in his chest piece, which, like, he sees. Maybe it's because he saw Tony Stark there.
Well, I don't think Captain America had any plans to kill Tony Stark.
True.
But I also think putting it in the chest piece cuts into that arc reactor thing, so I don't think the suit could be powered.
Right. But it was almost like it wasn't as powerful to me as in Batman v Superman with the Martha statement. And Batman being like, "What did you say?"
Yeah.
And I've heard complaints about that, not to talk about Batman v Superman. But I've heard complaints about that, we talked about this, about people saying, why would he stop because of Martha?
Yeah.
It wasn't because they shared the same name.
Right.
It wasn't, our mothers had the same name? Okay, I'm not going to kill you now. Right. It reminded him of, that he had a mother. And that even though he wasn't human and Kryptonian, he was raised on Earth, he had a mother that he loved, and he had that human element to him.
Right.
And I felt like that moment in Batman v Superman was so much more powerful because that was what stopped Batman from ending Superman's life. And this was just kind of like, okay, I was beating your face, now I'm done and I'm going to hit your chest.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, so I'm curious, in the next Avengers film, because I'm assuming that's when we're going to see Captain America and Iron Man next, how their, relationship is going to be. Are they still going to be fighting? They obviously they alluded to the fact at the end of the film that, Captain America is going to break out all the people that are in that floating prison. And so are they still going to be fugitives kind of from, the government, the law? Whatever?
Right. Yeah, you'd imagine.
So I don't know how, I'm very curious as to where their storylines are going to go.
But then again, there's stuff that Marvel has done in the past, like in Iron Man 3, he destroys all his suits, and then in Age of Ultron, he's back. And they do nothing to explain that, but they do explain it in this one.
Yeah.
But it just shows that, and maybe maybe they didn't think about that. I don't know how you couldn't.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because you're like, well, we got to put Iron Man in this. Where was Iron Man last we saw him? Oh, yeah, he destroyed all his suits. Let's not address
nobody will remember
that. I'm assuming enough complaints, or it was brought up enough to where they were like, okay, we got to address that in this movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that if they go off of Civil War that the next time we see these characters, they will have to be fugitives of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to address that? Because from what I saw, Iron Man, I mean, he kind of changed his perspective, but not really. It was only because he was like, well, Captain America's onto something, but that's not necessarily because the government is wrong. It's just they aren't seeing this.
Right.
I don't feel like Captain America really had changed sides completely.
Mm-hmm.
That's another issue I had was why did Iron Man go for the government side when in Iron Man 2 he was completely against, and of course you have the picture,
Right.
that mom.
Yeah.
But I don't. It was a little hard for me to take that was all it took to change Tony Stark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since he wasn't even there.
Well, no, he was in Sokovia, wasn't he?
Oh yes,
It was at the Avengers. He was the one. He was pushing the.
Right.
He was set all the bombs or something, right? Sokovia blew up.
I'm curious also why Howard Stark, after all these years, was carrying around the super serum. It's like they used it on Steve Rogers,
Mm-hmm.
and then this would have been like 40 years later,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 30. But I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting if you think back to
because it was
Phase
91
1 movies, The Incredible Hulk. They didn't have. I don't think it was the exact super serum, but it was. I guess they were trying to recreate it, maybe. So maybe this doesn't have anything to do with it. But in The Incredible Hulk, that's what they give to Tim Roth, and it turns him into the Abomination. And because they talk about, like in the 40s there was this. I don't know if they said Captain America, but they kind of refer to the super soldier serum program. And I'm guessing they've tried to replicate it, because otherwise, obviously, they didn't have. Well, I don't think there wasn't more super serum, because they gave it to Captain America. That one guy stole one, and then it broke when Captain America ran him down, and that was it, right? Because nobody else was able to replicate it. That was kind of the point.
I thought the serum that they gave the Winter Soldier was the same. Is it not?
For Captain America? I don't know.
Okay. I thought it was the same. I mean,
it was basically a super soldier something, because it did make them stronger. And I mean, Bucky, that was one of my complaints about about Bucky, is I like the Winter Soldier character and everything, but I felt like they made him like a little, and maybe that's how his character is, but maybe, I felt like they made him a little too superhuman. It's like he's jumping off rooftops and going down like a bunch of stories, and
I give that
has
to him.
No problems.
I give that to him because I see Captain America doing that, and I felt like they actually made him a little weaker than he should have been. Actually,
oh, all right. I might cut that out.
I mean, I could be wrong too, because like, if it's not the same serum,
right?
But if it is, I mean, Captain America could do that,
I just, from the first movie, and maybe this is just because I haven't read any Winter Soldier comics. My apologies. But, from the first movie, I just thought he was like highly trained, and he had a metal arm. So I didn't think he had like any sort of superpowers at all. But from this film, it seems like obviously he does. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If you can jump from that high of a building,
right,
then yes, you do.
Well, that's why, like, when I saw him jump from the building like that, I was like, what? But I guess that kind of explains it.
Oh, see, not me. Well, I mean, kind of, because I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But once I saw him do that, I was like, okay, he's like Captain America.
Got it.
And from that point on, anything that they threw at me about what the Winter Soldier could do, I accepted.
You bought it, right?
Yeah. And they show what it did to the other 4 people, or was it 5?
I don't know. Yeah.
But they showed that one of the guys had like huge muscles afterwards,
sure.
And So I took that as this was the same serum that Steve Rogers got.
I guess I'm gonna have to see the movie again. It's been a week for me, and I'm not remembering certain parts well enough, unfortunately. Sebastian Stan, though, as the Winter Soldier, I think he's really good. They cast a good Bucky Barnes. So
yeah, I agree. The looks he gives, and it could be the direction, but I'll give it to Sebastian. He looks like a guy that you feel sorry for.
Yeah.
Whenever you see the shots of him, you're like, he doesn't deserve to be in there, and this
Right.
guy's misunderstood.
Right. Speaking of acting, this is something I meant to say when we were talking about that scene, and it slipped my mind. I was a little disappointed that they changed the take of Iron Man's line.
Yeah, I know.
I
was
says,
too.
He's my friend, and he says, "So was I."
Yeah.
In the trailer,
So was
it was like a much more hurt
Yes.
version.
Absolutely.
And in this one, it was a much angrier version.
It was.
Which
It
worked
was.
within the scene, but I liked the hurt version from the trailer a lot.
Agreed. Totally. It felt it pulled on your heart.
Yeah.
It made you really feel the connection between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, and how betrayed Tony Stark felt.
Yeah, exactly.
In this, it was more of I'm taking you down because I'm angry at you, as opposed to, why would you choose him over me, which is what the trailer gave.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. It was way more emotional in the trailer.
Well, my other favorite character in the film, which was Mr. Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, he was fantastic in the fight scene. Him and Spider-Man brought a lot of the humor to the fight, which I liked.
Yeah.
And seeing him as Giant Man, I thought was awesome.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was amazing. And what really stunk to me was when they opened up the van door and they showed him there.
Yeah.
It hit me. I had forgotten that he was in this movie.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, no, it's not nice. Because I was like, oh no, I haven't seen Ant-Man yet.
Oh, that's right.
But it was okay because the way they played it off, like the comment that Tony Stark gave when he goes up to the jail cell and he's like, "Who are you?" I was like, okay, this is working out all right for me.
He said,
and it worked. Like, it didn't feel like I was missing anything. Like, I got the character, and they didn't. It worked. It worked.
Unfortunately for me, Giant Man was ruined before I saw the movie because those Funko little like bobbleheads you can buy.
Yeah.
I follow the Funko Instagram. I don't know why, because I'm a nerd. And they put on there that they had available
do a podcast on superhero movies.
Right. They had this. You can buy a 6-inch, like, so it's taller, Giant Man figure. And I saw that before the movie came out, and I was like, oh, well, I guess Giant Man's in the movie. And he was. Here's one question I have about Giant Man, as much as I loved it. Why, in movies, when somebody is a giant,
they move slower?
They move slower, yeah. Like, we saw that with Sandman in Spider-Man 3. He's like, and he just moves so slowly. And I feel like any movie that has a giant, they just move really slowly, and Ant-Man moves slowly, too. And I was just like...
I'm assuming it's physics?
I guess. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe there's, I never took physics, so maybe there's some sort of. You'd think if he was smaller, he'd be able to move a lot faster. Does he move faster when he's smaller? If that's the rule,
right? He didn't appear to be moving faster when he was smaller.
I didn't think so either. But I love when he is small and he gets into Iron Man's suit. And Iron Man's like, who's talking? He's like, it's me. It's your conscience.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
pretty
Paul
awesome.
Rudd was the lines. I'm super excited to see Ant-Man. I wanted to see it since I saw the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it yet. Shame on me.
Shame on you.
Yeah, and it was. I was even more disappointed in myself when I saw him and was like, "Oh, great! Now I'm not going to know any of the references they make to this character." And I don't know if they did or not. But if they did, it didn't like mess up my experience with Ant-Man.
There's a couple of references I would say to Ant-Man, but they're not to the point where it's going to ruin Civil War not seeing Ant-Man.
Right.
Like, talking about the line that Tony Stark says, "Who are you?" I believe the line before that, he says, Hank Pym always said, "Never trust the Stark." And Hank Pym is Michael Douglas's character from Ant-Man. And there's also, well, I don't want to ruin it for you since you haven't seen Ant-Man, but there's a couple other references. But
I figured, too, that Giant Man was one, too, because he mentions before he does that, he's like, "I did this one time in the lab, and I passed out after doing it." And then he became Giant Man. I was like, oh, I guess he becomes Giant Man in Ant-Man.
No, he doesn't. So that his test in the lab happens in between Ant-Man and Captain America Civil War.
Gotcha. Well, it was wonderful.
It was
great.
Really
it looked good. It didn't look fake.
No, it looks awesome.
Just to see a giant like that in a battle was great. I loved it.
I wonder if he'll do I'm assuming Ant-Man's going to be in Avengers 3.
Yeah,
so I wonder if
imagine.
it'll be like a combination, a balance of Ant-Man and Giant Man, which I would assume it would. If he can do both, why not do both?
Right. If you can become a giant person during a battle, you need to do it. Unless you pass out, of course.
Of course. I liked how Spider-Man brought him down, but I did feel like the joke about Empire Strikes Back, to me, felt forced. But, I mean, maybe a 14...
It makes sense, because they're both owned by Disney now.
Oh, that's true. But the joke that he says, he's like, remember that really old movie, The Empire Strikes Back? And I just feel like I said, maybe a 14-year-old would refer to it as that really old movie, The Empire Strikes Back. But I feel like that line just kind of, they were trying to force his age a little bit, Like, hey, look, we got a really young Peter Parker.
Right.
And they even make a joke about it. They're like, how old is this guy?
Right.
But, I mean, that's a nitpicky complaint. Like, I really don't.
Yeah, I did. That didn't bother me. I didn't mind it. I thought I actually liked it. So,
well, like I said, I liked how he brought it up, and it was like, and then used that strategy to bring Ant-Man or Giant Man down.
Right. Yeah, pretty much everything Spider-Man to me was a nail on the head. I loved everything Spider-Man.
I liked. I mean, all the characters are really good in this film.
I
felt bad
absolutely.
for Rhodes, of course. Having Vision accidentally shoot him out of the sky.
Right. Do you think they did that and made him paralyzed because of he's not going to be in the movies anymore?
Well, I don't think he's... I mean, they did say that there was possible paralysis, but you see him going through, like, physical training at the end of the movie, and he falls down, but it does seem like he's going to be able to walk again. So I don't think that's the case, but I don't know. I wonder if he's going to be War Machine in future movies, though, or if he's going to be too injured. So I don't know.
It made me wonder why they did that. It felt a little weird. Like either you have two options or three, I guess. You kill him, you make him have a disability, or you make him recover completely.
Right.
So at this moment, he can't walk. So I don't know. They didn't kill him.
And yeah, they didn't kill him. And if he is going to be too injured to be in future movies as War Machine, I feel like he's one of the only characters that they could have done that with, because he's not. I mean, he shows up at Avengers 2 as a future Avenger, but technically, I would say he's not really one of the cinematic Avengers.
Yeah,
like Black Widow,
I agree with that.
Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Vision, pretty much all those people are going to be in Avengers 2 as Avengers, and you don't necessarily have to have War Machine in that group.
Yeah.
Not that you have to have, other ones, I guess. But it makes sense that he's the one to get injured, I guess, if that's kind of what I'm trying to say, I suppose.
Right. I was expecting someone to die, and I thought it was going to be Rhodes because of the trailer.
Right.
And figured that Don Cheadle's contract was up, and this was how it...
I kind of thought he was the one to die, too. When he hits the ground, I mean, people in my theater were like, oh... they were like, oh, they were taken aback by it. So I kind of thought they were going to take the mask off him and he was going to be dead. But,
especially when you see the blood coming out of his nose, you're thinking, oh, his brain exploded. But,
he hit the ground hard.
Yeah. Yeah. But there was no deaths. No one died in this movie. Like in Age of Ultron, you had Quicksilver.
Right.
I figured one of them was going to go. But no. Surprisingly not. Hawkeye making his appearance again was, like I said, a nice surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed his redemption in Age of Ultron, at least to me, a redemption, because I felt like in Avengers he was kind of the unnecessary character.
Right.
And I know that Rayner has mentioned that himself for the first Avengers, and I felt like in Age of Ultron they really brought his character out and gave him some flavor, and he had it in this too. So I'm definitely liking me some Hawkeye.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's obviously a very strong character in Ultron. They gave him that whole backstory and everything, and I wondered when I saw Age of Ultron if it was in response to Jeremy Renner's remarks about the first Avengers and about how he really felt like he didn't have anything to do and how he was had to play like a brainwashed character for 90% of the film, and so I wondered if that was them being like, okay, all right, don't be upset, we'll give you a little more in this film, but he's I like Jeremy Renner as an actor, and I think he does do a good job of bringing a little humor to it as well. So yeah, seeing Hawkeye in this was really good, and seeing Ant-Man on Hawkeye's arrows, that whole sequence, that was pretty amazing as well.
Yeah,
and I really like Sam. We haven't talked about Anthony Mackie as Falcon, Sam Wilson. I think he's always really strong as well, and he's kind of a good sidekick. He's not, I know he's not Captain America's sidekick, but he kind of plays. Him and Chris Evans have a good chemistry, so I think they play off each other well.
Yeah, I agree. I like him. He's a great character. He plays the role well, and I like the way they've developed it. I don't necessarily get. I know that you've got to give your characters different abilities and stuff, but the abilities that he has, like the technology, the goggles, and the recognition of your surroundings and stuff, I feel like why don't all the Avengers, why aren't all of them using that?
Right.
But it's cool. It's cool.
He's just selfish and doesn't want to teach anybody how to use it.
Right.
He's like, no, if I teach everybody else how to use it, I won't have a thing anymore. I don't have
well, you got your flying wings.
Right. And I liked Red Wing in this film, which I guess in the comics was like an actual bird. And so in the movie they made it more of like a drone type thing, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. Vision was great.
Yeah.
Especially the sequence where he's fighting a Hawkeye.
You want to call him Hawkman.
Yes. Hawkeye. And he's just like, phasing in and out of physical substance.
Yeah, that was really cool. I did like that a lot. And
but then again, I was almost like, it happened, but then he punches him and he doesn't phase out, and it's just like not even affecting him.
Right.
Like Vision. So I was like, why did you phase out in the first place if you can take the punches?
Maybe he's just trying to wear Hawkeye down.
Maybe.
One of the things I did like was, Vision and Scarlet Witch have a relationship in the comics. And I like how they kind of alluded to that in this film. They kind of made Vision trying to almost kind of impress her a bit, like cooking and stuff. So I like that. I thought that was good.
Kind of, but then it played out at the end. She was taking it that way. And then all of a sudden, as she was leaving, he was like, well,
you can't go.
Iron Man is kind of making me keep you here.
Right. But I feel like there was another instance of them kind of sharing a little moment. I don't remember exactly, but I feel like there was it was obviously strong in that scene, and then you do find out he's got an ulterior motive. But I thought there was another moment between them, but maybe I'm wrong. And maybe it was at the fight scene or something, and I just can't remember it. But anyway, but even if it was fake, and it was for the reason because he didn't want her to leave, or he wasn't allowed to let her leave, it was still nice that they kind of put that in there and gave that little, even if it's a little like a wink to the audience,
Right.
It's still kind of cool. I was sad to see Peggy Carter die in this film, who was, in the first Captain America, and it was just announced that her TV show got canceled, so she's not going to be on TV anymore.
Did you watch that show at all?
No, I never did.
I haven't either.
We're the reason that it got canceled. So, but it was, that was I imagine that had to be tough on Captain America. And then finding out that Emily Van Camp's character, Agent 13 from Winter Soldier, was her daughter, I thought was interesting. And then I thought it was a little weird that they...
It was her
Oh,
niece.
it was her niece. Right. It was her niece. And then they have, of course, the kiss between Captain America and Sharon Carter. At first I thought it was forced, but then I remember I guess they do kind of allude to them having some sort of
they do
connection.
I felt like the niece part was forced,
making her the niece of Peggy Carter.
Right.
Yeah,
because she mentioned, she's like, and that's why I never told anyone we were related.
right.
Oh, okay.
Oh, problem solved.
So, favorite part of the movie?
Let's see, favorite part of the movie. If I had to pick one favorite part, it would probably be. It's tough for me because the Spider-Man stuff is so good, but I think it might have to be one of the Ant-Man scenes. Either the Giant Man scene or Ant-Man inside the Iron Man suit. I like both of those a lot. And then, of course, the fight scene between Captain America and Iron Man and Winter Soldier at the end was really good, too. But, yeah, I think the Ant-Man, Giant Man scene was really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to encompass that whole thing and just say, the airport
battle scene
fight was the best. The movie felt really slow to me at first.
Uh-huh.
Like, about an hour in, I'm like, I don't know about this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that I didn't like it, but it wasn't like, it wasn't just wowing me.
Sure.
Then the airport scene happened, and that was wonderful. But I felt like it slowed down a little bit towards the end. I liked, the Iron Man and Winter Soldier and Captain America section, but it wasn't the quality of the airport fight. So, but anyway, my favorite was the airport.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just choosing a scene, I guess, the airport battle, the fight scene would be definitely my favorite part. Yeah. And I agree with you. The movie felt a little long, and I think I agree with you 100%. I enjoyed the movie, and I was enjoying the beginning, but I wasn't. It really, if the airport fight scene hadn't been in the movie, which would be stupid because it's called Civil War, I don't think I would have liked this movie as much as I did. Like, it really picked up the pace and became really exciting at the airport fight scene.
Right.
But everything up until then was good, but just wasn't like, it didn't get me excited.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What did you think of? Did you stick around for the credits and see the two?
I only
teases?
saw one, and when
I
left and I went to the bathroom,
and you
and
didn't
I
see the
heard
second
someone mention while I was in the bathroom, there's two. There's a Spider-Man ending too, and I was like, oh, I missed that. I haven't seen the Spider-Man one yet. I'm going to pull it up on YouTube
if you can find it.
Yeah. All I saw was the Black Panther.
The Black Panther one I thought was cool. It was a nice, they're obviously the Black Panther movie's coming out, I think, next year. So that was cool seeing Wakanda and everything. The second one wasn't much. The Spider-Man one, it was okay. It wasn't really. I wouldn't say it was really with Spider-Man. It's with Peter Parker. But yeah.
Okay.
I mean, really, it wasn't. It seems like a lot of these, when they originally started doing those post-credit teasers, it was always teasing the next film, it seemed like.
Right.
Or it was teasing something that was coming up. At the end of Iron Man, it was like a tease about the Avengers initiative.
Right.
And then I remember at the end of Iron Man 2, it was Thor. They showed Thor's hammer.
Right.
After Captain America, it was like a teaser trailer for Avengers. Incredible Hulk even had an Avengers one. It was Tony Stark showing up and said, "We're putting together a team."
Was that Incredible Hulk? I thought. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was incredible because he shows up to William Hurt's character, who's in Civil War. He plays General Ross. He shows up to him at a bar or something.
Yeah,
and he's like, "We're putting together a team." But so I would say the Black Panther one is a tease of the upcoming Black Panther film, and then Spider-Man. Right. I guess you could say Spider-Man is a tease for Spider-Man: Homecoming, but it really wasn't a whole lot.
I gotcha. Okay.
Well, what would you rate this film? Out of your 5 stars.
This is a hard one. Yeah, out of 5 stars, I'm going to have to lower it more than I'd like to, but I don't do half stars. I'm going to say the same thing I did with Batman v Superman.